Mao was an evil demon lord who tried to conquer the world but was defeated by a beautiful girl hero. After becoming broke and powerless, he decides to live a normal human life and rises up the same girl who now wants him to defeat her in bed.
Just put it down.
It all begins in a battle-torn world called Isla, where Mao, the demon lord, and his generals try to wipe out the humans, but a hero arises and together with her allies, they decimate Mao's forces. Finally, when they were on the verge of ending the demon lord for good, he plans to escape to another world with his right-hand man, but promises to return and destroy the world. Moments later, Mao and Ashia arrive on Earth and are horrified to find out they now have human bodies. Just then, they get approached by a cop who mistakes them for cosplayers and tries to get them in his car. However, Ashia raises his hands expecting thunder, but gets hit with an air of disappointment instead. After, they get taken to the police station, where Mao hypnotizes the cops into giving them information about the world. When they leave, Mao tells Ashia that he discovered that on Earth, sorcery only exists in novels. Upon hearing this, Ashia tries to cast a spell to see if Mao is right, but instead of a chariot of fire, he summons an auto-driven taxi. After, they decide to play by the world's rules till they figure it out. So they create bank accounts by hypnotizing the bank staff and visit a real estate agency to get a house. Later that night, Mao explains that they'll have to work their pants off to attain their objective, when he suddenly passes out and gets rushed to the hospital. After he gets discharged, Mao complains about his frail human body and the hospital bills that cost more than their rent. He then realizes that money makes the human world go round, so after getting home, they fill out resume forms and pick fake names for their job hunt. Some days later, on his way to work, Mao waits at the lights with an umbrella when a girl drenched in rain and stops beside him. Noticing her, Mao gives her his umbrella since his workplace is nearby and rides off in the rain. Later at work, he gets approached by Chiho, a colleague, who then tells him how amazing he was handling the customers. In response, Mao says he's been studying hard for it, since he's just a part-timer. While he works, thinking he's in God mode, he realizes the machine stopped working. Mao then figures his perfect employee streak is about to be broken, so he panics and wonders if he should use what's left of his magic to fix the machine. Coincidentally, Kisaki shows up and asks what went wrong. A few moments later, while Mao sulks and Chiho tries to make him feel better, Kisaki shows up and asks to talk to Mao. While he sits in her office wondering if he's about to get fired for the umpteenth time, Kisaki walks in and announces that he's being promoted to a full-time employee. Excited, Mao heads home celebrating, but bumps into the girl whom he gave his umbrella to that morning. She then reveals she went to his workplace and watched him from the bookstore across the street, so she asks if he tried to use his magic. Hearing this, Mao freaks out while the girl asks why an overlord works at a McDonald's caricature. Just then, Mao realizes she's the hero Emilia. Surprised, Mao asks Emilia what she's doing on Earth, and she explains that she followed him through the gate to end him. Shocked, Mao suggests they talk things over, but Emilia draws a short knife and tells Mao to prepare to be gutted. Just then, Mao asks what she's doing with a kitchen toy set instead of her sacred sword, but Emilia says it's none of his business. When Mao insinuates that she's lost her powers, Emilia says she can sense that he is a weakling compared to what he was in Enter Isla. Suddenly, she charges towards him, but they soon land in a police station, where a cop asks why they were fighting. So Emilia says she was trying to end Mao, but the confused cop suggests they end the lovers' squabble. Annoyed by this, Emilia, who says she'd date a frog if he were the last man on Earth. While they head home, Emilia announces that she'll be sparing Mao for the night, but she tells him to watch his back since she knows where he lives. Mao then comments that she doesn't sound heroic, but Emilia says the last person she'd want to hear that from is an overlord who flips burgers for a living. The next day, at a customer call service center where Emilia works, a colleague suggests they try out McDonald's, but Emilia says it's the last place she'd want to visit. After work, Emilia heads back to her boring life, but freaks out when she can't take it anymore. Some moments later, she shows up at Mao's door and comments on the Matchbox apartment while Mao tries to defend his space. To make matters worse, Emilia asks if their dinner recipe was inspired by a gory crime scene. Since Emilia won't stop roasting them, Mao admits they're broke, making Emilia blame herself for always going after the young, dumb, and broke. When Ashia asks Emilia about her comrades, she narrates that she was the only one who made it through the gate. Afterward, Mao explains that his new world domination project will start from his Matchbox apartment. However, since Emilia doubts his ability to pull it off as a part-time burger flipper, Mao reveals his plans to conquer the country by becoming a full-time employee and piling up enough money to make people kneel before him. Unimpressed by his pipe dreams, Emilia says he's being ridiculous. But Mao says he doesn't expect a dim human like her to understand his lofty goals. So, Emilia decides to leave. The next day, while Emilia stakes out Mao's crib, Mao hurriedly heads out and tells Ashia that they need to take a bloody bath. Meanwhile, Emilia hears wrong and wonders whose blood is about to be spilled. To her surprise, they ended up in a bathhouse where she also spent her evening listening to the snooze fest. The next day, Emilia turns down Rika's hangout request again to stake out the Overlord's house. But to her disappointment, the idiots were busy rubbing their cucumbers with honey. So, the next day, Emilia shows up at Mao's workplace and asks to talk to him after work. But Mao pretends she is just any other customer. After she leaves, Chiho asks Mao if Emilia is his friend, but Mao says they have a weird relationship, so Chiho goes off, blabbing about how pretty Emilia looks. After work, Chiho asks Mao if he was alright during the previous day's earthquake. Just then, Mao realizes there was one and says that his roommate didn't notice it. Shocked, Chiho asks Mao if he lives with his girlfriend, but he responds by saying he lives a broke life with an old friend of his. Later, Mao meets up with Emilia, and she reveals she's been watching him and observed that he's been living a simple life. In addition to this, Emilia states that she'll spare him if he chooses to live out his life on Earth. In response, Mao asks if she enjoys watching two guys sleep together for the rest of their lives, but Emilia insists that he give up on Inta-Ila. So, Mao refuses and says he'll definitely return to conquer Inta-Ila. Suddenly, his bike gets hit, and while he throws a tantrum over his flat tire, the bicycle gets hit by more bullets, so they realize they're being shot at. Suddenly, Mao jumps to save Emilia, but she tells him to get off her. When the bullets won't stop, they both decide it's not a good time to bicker, so they run. Afterward, while they catch their breath, Emilia asks where the attacks came from, and Mao reveals it must be someone considerably powerful who knows their true identities. When Emilia asks if someone like that could exist on Earth, Mao blames her for picking the wrong time and spot to meet. After an argument, Mao takes his leave and tells Emilia to watch her back on her way home. To his surprise, Mao meets Emilia in front of his house and asks if she's trying to take him out. But Emilia reluctantly asks if he could let her stay over at his place since she lost her purse. Afterward, Ashia gets the shock of his life when Mao shows up with Emilia, so he freaks out, saying he's never heard of an overlord bringing a hero over late at night. Mao then explains her situation to Ashia and invites her in. He then tosses a blanket and some money at Emilia while telling her to get on the first train in the morning. When Ashia makes a big deal out of this, Emilia angrily goes to sleep, wishing she had stayed back in her world. The next morning, Mao and Ashia find a bowl of pickles and wonder where it came from. Just then, they figure it must have been Emilia's way of thanking them for letting her stay. Meanwhile, at Chiho's house, she recalls her chat with Mao and blushes when he accepts her request to hang out later in the day. Just then, Chiho's mom asks if she's going to work, but Chiho says she's got plans. However, when her mom tells her to be careful, Chiho fidgets, thinking she's about to get lectured on how to use protection. But to her relief, her mom is just worried about the muggings reported on the news. At Emilia's workplace, she gets a call from a strange caller who knows her true identity and says that it was fun watching the hero team up with the Overlord. When he reveals that it is in Ta'ila's will that they both get eliminated, Emilia freaks out. Just then, she wonders who it is since Ashia is the last surviving general of the Overlord. So she asks the caller who he is, but the caller promises to stay in touch and ends the call. Afterward, while Rika asks Emilia if they could grab lunch, she gets bailed out by a call from the police. Some minutes later, Emilia furiously signs some documents at the police station, while Mao and Ashia realize they aren't as invincible as they always thought. Just then, Emilia shows up angry and screams at them for making her a guarantor for criminals, but Ashia tells her to act like a hero. When they get out, Emilia tells Mao that she got a threatening call at work and adds that they're both targets. While she fumes about being the one who can end Mao's life, he reminds her she's in public. So Emilia tells him to stay alive till she puts him in the ground and hurries off. On their way home, Ashia asks Mao about his date with Chiho and suggests they check out a place. To Mao's surprise, they end up at a clothing store where Ashia tries to get him some new drip. When he eventually finds the right one, Mao asks Ashia where he got the money to pay for the clothes, but Ashia reveals he's got some secret savings for rainy days. When Mawu says the date is nothing serious, Ashia gets in his face and makes him realize he's officially in the dating zone. Afterward, Chiho meets up with Mawu, and when he compliments her looks, Chiho points out that he looks cooler than usual. She then suggests they head to a cheap cafe where they can relax, but Mawu tells her he'll foot the bills. Not long after, Emilia catches Ashia spying somewhere in the underground station and startles him. When she asks what he's up to, Ashia says it's none of her business, but Emilia insists she can't ignore demons acting suspiciously. She then checks out the cafe nearby and spots Mawu at a table with Chiho. Suddenly, she grabs Ashia and asks what they plan to do with the girl. In response, Ashia reveals that Mawu has no evil intentions, but since Emilia wouldn't let him be, he decides to spill. After this, Emilia asks why the date was necessary, and Ashia reveals that Chiho has a crush on Mawu. So Emilia checks Chiho out, and when she realizes that her tiny bits are nothing compared to Chiho's Milky orbs, she says there's no point keeping guard outside. She then heads into the cafe, while Ashia tries to stop her. Meanwhile, in the cafe, Chiho reveals that she heard a weird voice announce that some weird incidents might be happening in her world, and a big one might happen soon. When Chiho adds that the voice spoke in an unknown language which she strangely understood, Mawu figures the communication technique used to synchronize human minds must be the ideal link. While Mawu thinks of how this works, he spills some hot coffee on himself when he spots Emilia walking in with Ashia. Chiho then worries about him, but Mawu is focused on Emilia, who gives him a chilling stare. Just when Chiho points out that Mawu is a nice guy and tries to confess her feelings, Emilia shows up like a plot twist nobody asked for and endlessly talks about how cruel Mawu is. Chiho tells her to quit saying awful things and asks how she's related to Mawu. In response, Emilia explains that she's his enemy, but when Mawu tries to calm them down, he gets shut up by both ladies. After this, Chiho recalls that Emilia once visited Ronald's and asks if she's Mawu's ex. Annoyed by her question, Emilia slams the table, so Chiho assumes she's right and says she can make her move on Mawu however she wants. While the duo go back and forth in a heated argument, the building suddenly gets hit by a massive earthquake. Afterward, Chiho awakens beneath the rubble and finds Emilia, who then announces that they're trapped. Chiho then asks if Mawu is okay, but Emilia says countless people would rejoice if he died. After this, Emilia reassures her that Mawu is alive and introduces herself while explaining she's not a thing with Mawu. When Chiho reciprocates the gesture, Emilia asks her what she likes about Mawu since she's smitten by him. Suddenly, Chiho gets defensive, but eventually admits to it. However, Emilia says she'll only get her little heart broken in the long run. After this, she puts Chiho to sleep and asks Mawu to show himself. Just then, Mawu steps out of the dark in his demon form. So, Emilia figures his powers must have returned while Mawu wonders how he's going to explain away his look. Just when Emilia thinks of summoning her sword to finish him off, Mawu tells her to take care of Chiho while he helps the others. While Mawu takes apart the rubble to rescue people, Emilia wonders if he's forgotten what it means to be a villain. Some minutes later, while standing outside the rubble, Emilia flashes back to her childhood days and recalls how she hung out with her father at his farm and heard of the Overlord's army attacks. Her father had said that they had nothing to worry about since their continent was protected by the church. However, one day the cardinal showed up on their farm, and her father informed her that she had to go with them, since she was the daughter of an angel and the only human who could defeat the Overlord. After they left, the village was burned to the ground by the Overlord's forces. Suddenly, Mawu interrupts her trip down memory lane, and when he asks if she's okay, Emilia says she doesn't need him worrying about her. After she notices he's back to his bum version, Chiho joins them. A cop then tries to make them leave, but spots Chiho and asks if she's the daughter of an inspector. When Chiho confirms this, the cop leaves to get her pops, while Mawu flashes back to his first day on Earth. Facing Chiho, Mawu says he knows she wouldn't want her father to find out she was on a date when the earthquake happened and takes his leave. Afterward, Mawu explains to Emilia that he used magic on Chiho's dad when he arrived on Earth, and it must have affected Chiho by making her hear the voices. After this, Emilia asks Mawu about his plans, and he reveals that someone somehow caused the disaster to get them. So Emilia asks about the enemy's identity, but Mawu explains that the person was close and couldn't follow through because he gained his powers back. Concerned, Emilia asks if he knows who it might be, but their conversation gets interrupted by Rika. When Emilia leaves to meet her, Ashia runs up to meet Mawu and apologizes for failing at his duties. However, Mawu says it's time to go home and asks if he's hurt. Meanwhile, Emilia hangs out with Rika at her house and is served a bowl of food, which she empties in a matter of seconds. Afterwards, Rika talks about the recent muggings and adds that she'd like a bodyguard like Emilia's. Annoyed, Emilia debunks having a bodyguard and states that Mawu means nothing to her. The next day, Emilia shows up at Mawu's door, making him wonder if she wants some. But when she puts an envelope through the door opening, Mawu thinks he's about to be blown up. However, Emilia says it's the refund of the money he lent her for the train ride home. Immediately, Mawu grabs the envelope to check it out and asks Emilia about her promise to leave him alone for a while. But she says it's not happening since she became his guarantor. Mawu then asks Emilia if she's alright, but she retorts, saying she doesn't need her enemy worrying about her. Mawu then tells her to piss off, so while she angrily leaves, Mawu peeks to tell her to be mindful of the stairs, but she suddenly trips and falls. Some moments later, Ashia wonders how she could conquer the world, but not a flight of stairs. After rummaging through a med kit to help her out, Ashia can't find what he needs, so Mawu suggests he get it at a nearby store. When he leaves, Mawu decides to disinfect Emilia's wounds, but she snatches the towel and tells him to keep his hands to himself. While she treats herself and flinches, Mawu asks if she's okay, annoying Emilia, who then tells him to act like an overlord. Surprised, Mawu asks what she means and Emilia makes him realize how much he's sucking at being an overlord. When she accuses him of getting cocky because a young girl loves him, Mawu says that not all overlords are the same. Having had enough, he fires back by calling Emilia a makeshift hero for falling down the stairs and crying for help from demons. Hearing this, Emilia chills out and asks why he's being nice to her and the entire world. While he cluelessly stares at her, Emilia tearfully asks why he unalived her dad when he could play nice guy. After ranting about how she thinks an overlord is supposed to wreak havoc all over the world and accusing him of destroying her father's fields, Emilia says she'll never forgive him. She then breaks down in tears while Mawu apologizes and explains that he didn't understand humans too well. Just then, Chiho walks in with Ashia and is shocked to find Emilia on her knees and crying. She then misunderstands what's going on and apologizes while running off. Out of the blue, the landlady shows up and presumes Mawu is in the middle of some complicated girl drama. She then introduces herself to Emilia and asks if she's Mawu's girlfriend. However, Emilia says she's not into bums like him, so Mawu tries to protest but gets shut up by Mickety. After this, Mickety announces that she has decided to renovate the house and hands Mawu a notice. After explaining that it's necessary since strange things have been happening, Mickety states that Chiho headed towards the station in tears and tells Mawu he'll have to get her out of the mess he dragged her into. While they all wonder what she means, Mickety explains that Chiho took the brunt of a sonar and formed an idea link, surprising them all. Just then, she suggested they hurry up before it's too late to do anything. Meanwhile, Chiho walks along a street crying while she realizes she's in love with Mawu. Just then, she runs into Lucifer, who then says she's worth devouring and adds that he'll feed off her despair over Mawu. At that moment, some dude tries to get Lucifer out of the way, but gets knocked off by his wings. So, Lucifer says he's about to surpass the Overlord and wreak havoc in the city. Just then, Mawu and the others arrive on the scene and are surprised to find Lucifer. Emilia then wonders how Lucifer is alive since she snuffed him out during the battle at Inteila. But Lucifer reveals that he's alive because of Ulba, one of the high priests of the church. So, Ulba opens his hood and says there's no point hiding, shocking Emilia, who then asks Ulba why he's on Lucifer's side. In response, Lucifer reveals their plan to eliminate the hero and seize the power for themselves. Hearing this, Mawu guesses that Ulba promised to reinstate Lucifer in his place. Surprised, Ulba asks how he knows, but Mawu shuts him up and adds that amateur movies have better scripts than theirs. Suddenly, Ashia gets blasted through by Lucifer, who then says it's the end for them all. Suddenly, he levitates and fires more shots at Mawu and the others. However, Mawu blocks the attacks while Lucifer enjoys the thrill of terrifying the bystanders. Ulba then calls Lucifer to order, but he says it's cool, since the Overlord and hero can't put up a fight. On the run, Emilia asks if they're going to run like cowards, but Mawu shuts her up and says they have to save Ashia first. After this, Emilia asks Mawu how Lucifer is using his magic on Earth, so Mawu explains that he must be feeding off of humans' negative emotions by causing the recent robberies. Suddenly, Lucifer stands in their way and asks why he didn't gain more strength to return to Inteila when the subway collapsed, but Mawu says he's having fun on Earth. Just then, Lucifer points out that the Overlord must have swapped his balls for a rose and summons Chiho, while threatening to milk her of all the despair he can get. Suddenly, Lucifer attacks Mawu and Emilia, but they flee the scene. However, Mawu gets hit by one of Lucifer's blasts, so he complains about the weakness of human bodies. Shortly after, they run into Olba, who then shoots Mawu down with a pistol. Surprised, Emilia asks Olba why he's using human weapons, and he reveals that he's saving his magic for controlling the gate when they return home. While they talk, Lucifer catches up and asks if Mawu is really the Overlord who once tried to take over in Ta'ila. However, when Olba suggests he take them out at once, Mawu grabs Emilia and teleports to a nearby station. Emilia then asks if he did that because he needed an ambulance, but Lucifer shows up again while many people watch in amazement, and puts a hole in Mawu. Excited to have taken out the Overlord, Lucifer says he doesn't need Chiho anymore and drops her from the sky. Immediately, Emilia rushes to catch her, while Lucifer launches a city-wide attack that destroys a bridge. When the bridge almost crushes the people and Emilia, Lucifer is shocked since he doesn't get his shot of despair. The rubble then clears, and everyone realizes the bridge particles are floating mid-air, thanks to Mawu, who had taken his demon form. At that moment, Chiho awakens and spots Mawu, while Emilia figures that Mawu brought the fight to a crowded area to absorb enough magic from people. Suddenly, Mawu tells Emilia to quit spacing out and find a way to take out Lucifer since he can't hold the bridge for much longer. However, Emilia refuses by saying she'd never help an Overlord. While Mawu freaks out, Emilia casts a spell to keep Chiho safe and summons her hero gear. Suddenly, Mawu puts the people to sleep and sets up a magical barrier to prevent the fight from destroying the earth. Afterwards, the fight begins, and after a while of clashing swords, Lucifer sends Emilia flying with a kick. When he laughs and asks Emilia how she plans to replenish her sacred powers, Ashia appears behind him, holding Emilia. Ashia then announces that he's sworn allegiance to the Overlord, and that makes Lucifer an enemy. Surprised, Emilia asks Ashia how he's alive, and he explains that he was on the verge of death, but Mawu gave him enough magic to recover. While they talk, Olba tries to shoot Ashia, but Emilia disarms him. So Lucifer gets annoyed and asks Olba to prove he's not a useless waste of space, but Olba says he has no means of replenishing his powers. When he adds that they might not be able to return, Lucifer reminds him that they won't be able to return if they lose, so Olba charges up and begins to attack. Meanwhile, Chiho wonders if she's in a sci-fi movie, and Mawu figures he can't possibly make her understand what's going on. So he carefully sets down the bridge while the others try to roast each other. Just when Olba starts feeling like Nikola Tesla, Ashia throws cars and knocks him into a wall. Simultaneously, Mawu commends himself for doing a good job and says he'd better deal with the others fast or he'll be late for work. So he levitates and wonders how he should pay the idiots back for making an Overlord feel like a minor character. Suddenly, Mawu gets in Lucifer's face and gives him a chilling stare. After this, Mawu asks Emilia what he should do with Lucifer, and in response, she suggests he punish the vermin for messing up the city. So, Mawu casts a series of spells that blow the guts out of Lucifer and restores him to his human form. Afterwards, Chiho asks who they are, and Mawu explains that he's an Overlord from another world, while Emilia says she's a mix of human and angel. Amused, Chiho says she has always thought angels and demons are fictional beings. Some moments later, Emilia asks Mawu if he's returning to Ta'ila since his powers are back, but Mawu says he's got lots of shifts to work that month, surprising Ashia, who then asks if Mawu is more interested in conquering Ta'ila or flipping burgers. Meanwhile, Emilia faces Lucifer and asks if he's the one who called her at work, and Lucifer admits to this. Just then, a portal opens and Emiradad steps out alongside Albert. Looking around, Albert wonders why time stopped. But Emirata says it's the effect of a magical barrier. Moments later, they spot Emilia, and when they join her, they are surprised to see Mawu and Ashia. Moments later, Emilia and her friends head to Mawu's apartment, and on their way, Emirata reveals that Olba and the entire church were in on the plan to take her out. Meanwhile, Lucifer wonders if the Overlord has gone crazy since he stays behind to fix the damaged bridge. Later that day, when Albert and Emirata prepare to leave, Albert points out that the church might get antsy if they don't return soon, and also suggests Emilia return soon too. At Mgronald's, Chiho asks Mawu if he's returning to Ta'ila soon, so Mawu says he's not and offers to wipe her unpleasant memories if she wants, but she gets mad at him. Some days later, Mawu plays evil overlord while feasting on some roasted meat to celebrate his promotion with Ashia. After Ashia tells him he's scaring the other customers, so Mawu apologizes and suggests they get Lucifer some dinner. However, Ashia votes against that, since the little wench keeps blowing their money on Black Friday deals. Meanwhile, on Ente Isla, an interrogator for the church reports to the lords of the church that Emilia, the overlord, and Olba are alive and well in another world. When she adds that the news about Emilia's survival and Olba's defection is about to be leaked, the other priests freak out and ask her for suggestions on how to fix it. Back on Earth, Mao and Ashia return from their celebration and are greeted by a starving Lucifer. While Ashia lectures Lucifer on his manners, Mao hands him a bowl. Unsatisfied, Lucifer complains, saying it's not good enough. But Ashia makes him realize the PC and internet connection they got him weren't free. Hearing this, Lucifer insists he can't eat a computer, so Ashia tells him to put it to good use by digging up info about the magic that exists in the world. To impress Lucifer hacks into Emilia's computer at work and places a call through to her. When Emilia realizes who it was, she gets pissed. Later, at McDonald's, Chiho commends Mao for becoming a shift manager in less than a year. However, when she states that Mao will get to rule over a small number of humans for some time, Emilia shows up at the door and says she won't allow that. She then walks up to the counter and says she needs to talk to Mao, but he says he's working. Pissed, Emilia states that he started it first when he prank called her at work. Meanwhile, back home, Lucifer runs through his PC, looking for games to play while Ashia arrives and checks the mailbox, where he finds mail from Mickety. Somewhere else, Emilia asks Mou why he prank called her at work, but he blames Lucifer. So Emilia asks why he's hosting the little vermin, and Mao explains that since Olba got picked up by the cops, Lucifer shouldn't be left out and about. Hearing this, Emilia complains about his apartment getting crowded, but in response, Mou says he can't return to Ente Isla even if he wanted to. Unconcerned, Emilia brags about her ability to leave at will, so Mao asks why she's still on Earth, and Emilia says it's her duty as a hero to keep the demons in check. On getting home, Mao finds Lucifer on the floor and hurriedly pulls him up. Just then, he finds the mail on the floor, and Ashia opens the restroom door to warn Mao against checking the letter. Afterwards, Ashia explains that the mail contains pictures of Mickety in swimsuits, making Mao wonder why two demons would be shaken by something like that. So Lucifer asks him to take a look himself, but when Mao glances at a part of the picture, he diverts the discussion and asks if Lucifer has gotten any info related to magic. Lucifer then puts on his PC and explains that he found out that magical hotspots can be found nearby. After this, he shows Mao a page about a forbidden classroom where strange things happen and says a demon is likely involved. Afterward, Mao and Ashia scout the school, and while they think about how to get in, they spot Chiho waving from a classroom window. Later at work, Mao asks Chiho about the forbidden classroom, and she fills him in on every rumor about the school mysteries. When Mao says that the weird happening might be linked to Enter Isla and he'd like to investigate it, Chiho volunteers to help. By nightfall, they sneak into the old school building, and when Mao asks about the forbidden classroom, Chiho explains that a student once disappeared in the class, and since then, it's never been used. After this, Lucifer calls to ask if they've arrived at the forbidden classroom. In response, Mao says they haven't and asks what he wants. In response, Lucifer explains that someone once opened up a gate in the classroom, and this makes it easier for subsequent gate openings. After Lucifer adds that Mao could replenish his powers in the classroom if he gets there on time, he tells them to give him a call when they arrive there. Suddenly, they get startled by some noise down the hall and prepare for a fight since they think it must be a monster. However, Ashia points out that they don't have enough magic and suggests they use Mickety's mail against the monster. Emilia shows up. Just then, Emilia shows up and reminds them they'd look good in orange jumpsuits if caught with a young girl in the dark. After they explain the situation to Emilia, Chiho hands her a pair of slippers to change into. So, Emilia takes off her footwear and explains that she ended up at the school after tailing them. Just then, she looks up and finds out that she's been explaining to statues. Meanwhile, while Mao and the others hurriedly walk away, Chiho asks if leaving Emilia is a good idea, but Mao explains that things go south whenever she's involved. Suddenly, Emilia finds them, so they run and hide in a lab. But Emilia soon enters the lab and slashes through a human model, thinking it's Mao. After this, Mao and the others step out of hiding and make Emilia realize she's just destroyed the school's property and will have to replace it. However, when Chiho says no one would find out if they all keep their mouths shut, Emilia blames them for sneaking in and suggests Mao fix the model with his power. Later, on their way to the forbidden classroom, Mao asks Emilia to put away her sword, but he refuses, saying he's not her boss. Shortly after, they arrive at the forbidden classroom and find out it's unlocked, so Mao opens the door, and when they enter, they realize someone has been living there. Just when Mao wonders if they're in the right class, they look around and find a game console. Suddenly, Moyu gets a call from Lucifer, who then asks if he has found the console. When Mao confirms this, Lucifer tells him to bring it with him. Just then, it dawns on Mao that they've been tricked, so he asks Lucifer if he and Olba landed in the class when they arrived on Earth. In response, Lucifer says they did, so Mao and the others leave the school disappointed. The next day, when Mao returns from work, he heads toward the stairs, and suddenly, a girl in a traditional outfit stumbles down the stairs and falls into his arms. The next morning, at Mao's apartment, the doorbell rings, so the boys wonder who it could be. When Mao gets to the door, he finds the girl from the previous night, and she introduces herself as Suzuno. After apologizing for tumbling down the stairs, she presents a pack of noodles to express her gratitude. However, Mao isn't prepared for how heavy it is, so Ashia introduces himself. In response, Suzuno explains that the landlord said in a letter that she can rely on them if she needs any help. Just when she pulls out the mail to show them a photograph, Ashia stops her and saves the day. After this, Suzuno peeks in and spots Lucifer, so he introduces himself, while Mao adds that he's a total bum, annoying Lucifer. Meanwhile, at Emilia's apartment, she gets a package from Imarata, so while they talk on a call, Imarata explains that the box contains bottles of holy vitamins with sacred powers made just for her use on Earth. So, Emilia checks it out, while Imarata explains how drinking it would replenish her sacred powers. Later that day, Emilia plays CIA agent, but soon realizes why stakeouts are done at night. Just then, she spots Suzuno giving Lucifer a lecture on house management, so she wonders if she's just another demon she has to worry about. After this, Emilia sneaks into the building and spies on the duo with her mirror. Oblivious to this, Suzuno continues her lecture, while Ashia lies down and sickly encourages Suzuno to talk more sense into Lucifer. Suddenly, Suzuno decides to get some ingredients from her apartment, so Emilia dashes for the door, but not before Suzuno spots her. She then falls over the stairs but somehow lands in Mao's arms. When he asks what kind of hero falls down every stairs she sees, Emilia makes his nose squirt and they both fall to the ground. Drawn by the noise, Suzuno and Lucifer step out and ask what they're up to. Shortly after, Suzuno says she's at fault for opening the door, but Emilia blames herself for losing her footing. Moments later, Lucifer walks in with Emilia's things, which he picked up the stairs, and pulls out a bottle of her sacred powers. When Emilia quickly snatches the bottle from him, Lucifer warns her that she'll end up ill like Ashia if she keeps drinking stuff like that. Facing Emilia, Suzuno introduces herself and announces that she moved in next door. After this, she adds that she's from an old-fashioned family somewhere far away and says she could use a tutorial on the ways of the city. However, Emilia gets busy checking out her chest cannons, but she snaps out of it and reciprocates the gesture. Afterward, Mao announces that he's getting promoted to being a shift supervisor at McDonald's and explains how much better the pay is. But when he realizes that Emilia isn't impressed with his achievement, he announces that he won't stop reaching for the top. Emilia, on the other hand, calls him an idiot. So Suzuno asks Emilia if Mao has been taking dips in her honeypot since they seem pretty unreserved with each other. When Lucifer says it seems that way, Emilia angrily debunks this by saying it would make her day if Mao drops dead. At that moment, Emilia thinks Suzuno is smitten by the Overlord too, so she whispers in Suzuno's ear to ask if she's going after Mao too. Suzuno then drags her out of the room and says the others could have heard her say that. After this, Suzuno asks Emilia how she could tell, but Emilia decides to keep the drama with Chiho secret and says she just had a hunch. After realizing Suzuno is neither an assassin nor a demon, Emilia warns her against getting close to Mao since that will only bring her sorrow. In response, Suzuno says she's been through a few battles in the past and adds that she'll be careful regardless. Some moments later, Emilia hands Suzuno her contact and informs her to reach out if any of the boys do anything crazy. Hearing this, Mao asks Emilia what she thinks of them, and she says they're bloodthirsty monsters worse than cockroaches. After threatening the boys to keep their hands off Suzuno, Emilia takes her leave, but trips on the stairs again. Later that day, while Mao heads out to work, Suzuno shows up with a packed lunch and hands it to Mao. Somewhere else, on a call with Imarata, Emilia reveals she's been drinking the holy vitamins but hasn't had the chance to see their effects. So Imarata asks how it's going with Mao, and when Emilia explains that they barely have time to get in each other's business since they've got jobs, Imarata points out that she sounds like a neglected housewife. Hearing this, Emilia freaks out while stating that Mao will be her enemy till the end of time. Imarata then reveals that things are quiet on Isla, although the church is looking into Olba's disappearance and might have people looking for Emilia already. After this, Imarata warns Emilia to be careful, and they end the call. At McDonald's, Kisaki informs Mao that she'll be gone for a while and he'll be in charge of making decisions on her behalf. Some moments later, while Mao takes a lunch break, he unwraps Suzuno's lunch pack, making Chiho curious, so she asks if Ashia bought that for him. But Mao explains that a lady next door lent it to him. Suddenly, Chiho grabs Mao by the collar and throws a tantrum. Later that day, Emilia gets her dinner in preparation for another stakeout, and just when she heads out of the store, a masked idiot runs into the glass door and collapses. Emilia then spots his eyes sparkle, so when the store attendant runs up to play hero, Emilia knocks him off and summons her sacred sword. She then sends the attacker flying and instructs the attendant to call the cops. On stepping out, Emilia gets shot with a beam, which she blocks with her sword. So she spots the culprit lurking in the dark like the Grim Reaper and says he's got some nerve to attack her in public. Suddenly, she draws her sword and attacks the culprit, but she soon gets blasted again by the beam from his eyes. But this time, her sword shrinks, surprising Emilia. So while the culprit blasts her with more beams, he gets hit with some paintballs by the store attendant. Suddenly, the attacker runs off while Emilia makes her sword vanish and apologizes to the attendant for pushing him off. After this, the cops arrive on the scene, and shortly after, Emilia thinks about how well the holy vitamins worked. However, when she realizes she was no match for the purple beams from the attacker, a cop walks in with her belongings. She then gets a call from Chicho, who then notifies her that Mao brought a lunch packed with love to work. The next day, Chiho and Emilia stand outside Mao's house, and when they arrive at the door, they ring the doorbell. But to their surprise, Suzuno opens the door and informs Mao that he's got visitors. Some moments later, while Suzuno flexes her culinary skills, Chiho realizes she's filling in for Ashia while he has heat stroke and commends Suzuno's cooking. Afterward, when they sit to eat, Lucifer peeks out of his little world and figures there's no space left for him. Annoyed, he freaks out and asks why he's being treated worse than the enemy. While they eat, Suzuno explains that she's just trying to get the boys to help her finish her food reserves. When she adds that she had gotten too much food to minimize her expenses till she gets a job, Emilia asks about her job preference. In response, Suzuno says she's cool with any job that can cover her living expenses. Just then, Mao suggests she join him and Chiho at McDonald's, surprising everyone. When Mao adds that Chiho can help her get through her training without any tension, Lucifer realizes how dumb the Overlord is when it comes to girl mechanics. Just then, Emilia chips in that she doesn't have to make a hasty decision and suggests she think about it. A few moments later, when Ashia suggests Emilia help Suzuno out with shopping for clothes, Suzuno reveals she only has a Japanese-style outfit, surprising everyone. So Chiho suggests that Emilia take her to some boutiques after work. Afterwards, Chiho goes for a change of clothes, and when she shows up, Emilia figures she wasn't joking when she said she had only traditional wear. After Chiho says her goodbyes, Mao walks her home, and on the way, Mao asks if her parents are cool with her visiting a guy. Chiho then says her parents didn't think much of it. She then asks what Mao plans to do about food since Suzuno went out with Emilia. When Mao says he has no plans, Chiho asks if she could bring some along for him, and Mao takes up the offer. While Chiho gets excited, Mao asks why she isn't bothered about hanging around demons. In response, Chiho says she knows a little about what they've done, but it doesn't matter since she fell in love. Hearing this, Mao freaks out, but Chiho reveals how she feels about him, so Mao comments that it's why humans are so terrifying. Out of the blue, Suzuno shows up and chips in that Mao is lucky to be loved. Shocked, Chiho asks Suzuno how long she's been standing there and goes crazy when she realizes her secret feelings are not so secret anymore. Feeling embarrassed, Chiho snatches Mao's bicycle and zooms off. Shortly after, Suzuno meets up with Emilia at the train station and reveals that she's never been on a train before. Emilia asks how she got to the city. In response, Suzuno says she simply used the gate, surprising Emilia, who then asks if she's from Isla. When Suzuno says she thought Emilia knew that already, they both freak out, and Emilia says she never mentioned it. Just then, Suzuno refers to their discussion outside Mao's apartment and reminds Emilia that she once asked if she was after the Overlord. Hearing this, Emilia exclaims while Suzuno asks why she asked such a question if she hadn't realized who she was. When Emilia insists she had no idea, Suzuno points out that it's odd for some random innocent girl to show up in a new house and take care of the guys next door. So, Emilia realizes it's been a huge misunderstanding and asks Suzuno why she was curious about her relationship with Maoyu. But Suzuno reveals that she asked because she got some info that she was teaming up with him. Hearing this, Emilia reveals that they only fought a common enemy together and suddenly realizes that the misunderstanding must be why she got attacked by the Grim Reaper. While Suzuno wonders what she's talking about, Emilia narrates how she got attacked outside the store and thinks Suzuno was the attacker. However, since she couldn't find traces of paint on Suzuno, Emilia gets confused. Just then, Suzuno says she never attacked anyone and introduces herself as Christia Bell, the chief interrogator for the church. Emilia then hands her a train ticket and suggests they continue the discussion at their destination. Afterwards, while they moved around the city, Suzuno embarrassed her entire bloodline in public. So, when they settle down, Emilia asks how she learned about the country. So Suzuno reveals that she watched some old dramas and documentaries. While they prepare their drinks, Emilia asks why she moved in next door to the Overlord. So Suzuno explains that she discovered where Maowu was living while trailing Olba, so she moved in to keep an eye on him. Hearing this, Emilia asks Suzuno what she wants from her, and she reveals that she can tell that the reports stating that Emilia has joined the Overlord are false. She then expresses her interest in becoming Emilia's ally, and also suggests they join forces to end the Overlord. However, when Suzuno suggests they return to Isla to talk the church out of trying to cover up Olba's defection, Emilia says she's uninterested, since the church tried to bury countless people just to get her and Maowu. After listing the many sins of Olba and the church, Emilia says she can't trust someone who works for them. In addition, she warns Suzuno against playing any tricks on the demons, since they're not as soft as they look. Before leaving, Emilia hands Suzuno some magazines to help her learn the ways of her new world. Meanwhile, at McDonald's, Maowu worries they've lost their customers to Sentaki, a new spot across the street. Just then, Kasaki announces she's leaving for the headquarters soon and puts Maowu in charge. While Maowu worries his first day on the job sucks, some dude walks in and asks to speak to the manager. When Maowu suggests that the guy speak to him since the manager is away, Mitsuki says he has heard a lot about Maowu and hands over his card to Maowu. On checking it, Maowu realizes he's the manager of Sentaki and dryly suggests they do their best. However, Mitsuki slides over to Chiho and tries some wacky lines on her. A few moments later, while Chiho sulks about this, Maowu says he should have stopped the wannabe playboy. In response, Chiho expressed her anger at Mitsuki and decided they can't lose to a runt like him. Just then, Maowu reveals that he'll soon have some intel to use against Sentaki since he already planted a spy. Meanwhile, after a shopping spree, Suzuno bumps into Emilia and Rika. Surprised, Emilia realizes Suzuno got more Japanese wear and asks if she has that much money. Suzuno then explains that she pawned off some stuff to get the outfits. Some moments later, Suzuno reveals she's going to Maowu's workplace and invites Emilia to go with her, while Rika points out that the name sounds familiar. Just then, Suzuno adds that she knows Emilia advised her to stay away from him, but it's too late to back out. Hearing this, Rika thinks Emilia got in a fight over a man and insists she'll tag along to help resolve the issue. When they arrive at McDonald's, Emilia wonders why it's unusually crowded, and Suzuno points out that a festival is starting that day. So, Rika spots McDonald's and points out that they don't seem to have any customers. After thinking about how things could go south if they choose to go in to settle a lover's quarrel, Rika suggests they head to Sentaki's to hold a strategy meeting first. Afterwards, the ladies step up to the counter and place their orders. So Rika paid for the orders, but gets creeped out by Mitsuki's touch. After getting the order, Rika comments on his wacky perfume taste and finds a seat. She then asks Suzuno to spill, so Suzuno explains that Maowu is her good neighbor, surprising Emilia, who then recalls her suggesting they join forces to end Maowu. However, when Rika asks Emilia what she thinks about Maowu, she says he's someone she'd like to put in the ground forever. In addition, Emilia states that she's trying to keep Suzuno away from Maowu for a different reason. but Rika responds by saying they're not being honest with themselves. Annoyed, Emilia asks Rika why she's so bent on shipping her with Mau. To make matters worse, Emilia goes on saying everything despicable about him. But she suddenly gets interrupted by Ashia, who had been listening and was clearly pissed. Meanwhile, Mau wonders why Ashia is taking too long and flashes back to the moment he informed Ashia about the mission. Ashia had protested against going to fill the enemy's pockets with his money, but Mau convinces him that it's a necessary cost to learn about the strengths and weaknesses of the enemy. After this, Mau looks around and realizes the entire staff has lost their vigor since McDonald's is a graveyard compared to Kentucky. While Mau thinks of what to do, Chiho suggests they stand outside to attract customers. Hearing this, Mau decides to wait for Ashia's feedback to figure out how they can attract the customers. While he racks his brains, one of the staff asks if he's alright and adds that he doesn't have to do everything by himself. So, Mau gets himself together and suggests they bide their time by washing the windows. Meanwhile, over at Kentucky's, Emilia asks Ashia why he was hiding, and Ashia reveals that he was trying to avoid trouble until she began to slander his master. Afterward, Emilia figures out why he's at Kentucky's and offers to buy Ashia whatever he wants. Immediately, Ashia takes a seat and explains that his priority is keeping their finances and decides to order desserts and salads. Confused, Rika asks Emilia if Ashia is a friend, but they quickly debunk this. Ashia then introduces himself as Suzuno's neighbor, while Rika reciprocates the gesture. After this, she asks if he lives with Mau, and when Ashia confirms this, Rika says she'd like to get to know Mau better. So, Ashia tells a story where he and Mau run a construction company, and Emilia is their rival's employee. He then continues by saying their operations got large in scale, and so they fought over contracts. After a while, they lost a contract and went bankrupt, so they drifted from place to place till one day when they bumped into Emilia again. Ashia then ends his fake story by saying Emilia stops by to check on them to see how they're doing. In addition to this, Ashia states that Mau hasn't given up on being a businessman, so he works his pants off at McDonald's to learn about business from the ground up. Afterwards, he insinuates that Emilia is bent on keeping Suzuno away from them since Mau still sees her as an enemy. Impressed by Ashia's story, Rika commends Ashia for being supportive, and he responds by saying no one has ever encouraged him like that. While they stare at each other, Rika suddenly blushes while Emilia asks if something's gotten into her. Afterward, Rika says she'd like to meet Mau for herself, so they head out and leave Emilia to get Ashia's order as promised. Some moments later, Ashia reports to Mau that there's nothing special about the service at Kentucky and adds that the passers-by are attracted by the new place. After this, Ashia places an order for dinner and wishes him the best of luck with the ladies before taking his leave. Mau then walks up to the ladies and asks them to place an order, but Emilia tells Mau to get her some iced coffee. Mau then tells her to get it herself. While they go back and forth, Rika points out that Mau isn't as charismatic as she expected him to be and adds that the place is a ghost town under his supervision. Annoyed, Mau raises his voice at Rika, so she threatens to get him for his terrible way of treating customers. Mau then informs her that customers need to play by the restaurant's rules and asks who she is. In response, Rika introduces herself and reveals that she heard about him from Ashia and the ladies. Curious, Mau asks Rika what they say about him, but she gives him a vague response. Just when Chiho arrives, Mau complains that it's bad enough that they don't have customers and adds that Emilia's arrival just made things worse. Ignoring this, Chiho serves Emilia's order and introduces herself to Rika. Amused by this, Rika hugs Chiho and points out that she's cute. When she finally lets go, Rika takes a seat and announces that she'd like to see Mau work since he can't be as dim as he looks. Annoyed, Mau orders his staff to advertise their hamburgers with flyers, so they get to work, but they get no customers. After this, Mau suggests they show off their packs to attract customers, but this fails too, so the ladies watch in disappointment. Shortly after, Mau has a man deliver bamboo trees to the front of the restaurant, so they take out some decoration items and craft more from the remaining flyers. Just then, Emily asks Chiho what's going on, and she explains that Mau came up with an idea to let people write their wishes on strips of paper and decorate the trees themselves. In addition to this, Chiho explains that Mau met the bamboo man while doing community service. Surprised, Emilia wondered why an overlord would do community service. Just then, the mood around McDonald's changed, impressing Rika, so more customers showed up. The next day, when Chiho comments about the previous day, Mao says that Sentaki might steal their customers again if they take things easy. While he flashes back to Kasaki's threat, she taps him and tells him to go to Fushima Park the next day. Shocked, Mao screams and says he met the sales target the previous day. Kasaki then says that the manager over there asked her to lend them one of her talented employees. While he gets relieved to know he isn't going to Greenland, Kasaki reveals that he'll be well compensated for the trip. Hearing this, Chiho volunteers to go with him, but Kasaki says that Mao alone is enough. Later during dinner, Mao informs Ashia about his trip and comments that he's eating too much despite just recovering from an illness. In response, Ashia says the noodles will expire soon and suggests they finish them before the next day. Just then, Lucifer finds out on his PC that a new haunted house and reptile fair will be opened at the park. He then states that loads of people will go there and adds that they could farm some magic from the people's fear. Hearing this, Ashia volunteers to go to the park with Mao. Meanwhile, Suzuno overhears the conversation from her apartment. At Amelia's apartment, she gets a call from Chiho, who then invites her to hang out at Fushima Park the next day. When Amelia responds by saying she's free to hang out, Chiho gets excited and checks out her swimsuit in anticipation. After this, Amelia gets a call from Suzuno and is informed that Mao is planning on harvesting magic at the park. Surprise, Amelia says she heard from Chiho that he's going there to help a restaurant. When she asks how Mao plans to harvest magic from a recreational facility, Suzuno says she's naive and says she'd like to go with them to see it for herself. The next day, at the park, Mao introduces himself to the branch manager, who then responds by saying she shared her a lot about him. While she encourages her staff to work hard, the ladies meet up outside, and Suzuno confesses that it's her first time at an amusement park. Afterwards, Amelia and Chiho meet in the changing rooms where wearing beachwear. When she sees Chiho's massive honkers, Amelia wishes she had selected better jeans. Just then, Suzuno surprises her friends with her Stone Age drip. Meanwhile, Mao works his pants off just to get a compliment from the branch manager. When he gets back to taking orders, he's surprised to see Chiho, so while he processes her order, Chiho reveals that she came to hang out. She then cheers him on and wiggles her milky peaks at him. When she asks what he thinks, Mao misses the cue and says that the job is more hectic at the park since there are loads of customers. Disappointed, Chiho says she expected too much from a tactless twig like him. Just then, Emily and Suzuno show up, so Mao asks what they are doing at the park. In response, Amelia says she's free to do whatever she wants on her days off, while Suzuno says she's learning the ways of society. Meanwhile, back at Mao's house, Ashia crawls out of the restroom, while Lucifer says he must have had too many noodles. Not long after this, Ashia rushes back into the restroom and blames himself for ruining his plans to help Mao with the magic harvest. At the park, the ladies decide to check out the haunted house, so they go in. Not long after this, Chiho gets scared to bits by the effects, so she dashes off. While Amelia and Suzuno look around for Chiho, they find a girl crying and approach her. Just then, they discover it's a creepy effect of the haunted house, so they scream their lungs out. After they recover from the shock, the ladies decide to check out the reptiles. Amelia then tells Chiho to back out if she's not up for it, but she insists she'll go. Just then, Suzuno asks Amelia if she's scared, but she denies it and says she's just not good with reptiles. After this, while they flash back to terrifying experiences they've had with reptiles, Suzuno asks if there'll be edible reptiles too, surprising the other girls. Suzuno then reveals that she was once served a reptile cuisine, but Amelia drags her aside and asks why she's telling Chiho about Isla. Shortly after, the girls check out different reptiles, but when a chameleon tries to get a taste of Amelia, she bumps into a guard who then mistakenly drops his key and heads off. Simultaneously, when Mao makes a delivery to a circus, a monkey escapes and finds the dropped key. Later, Amelia and the other ladies find the monkey and wonder if it's lost. Just then, the monkey hops in Chiho and enjoys the texture of her pillows.
City boy!
When Mao prepares to leave the circus, the men call out to the monkey, which was named after Mao. Not long after this, while the ladies wonder what to do with the monkey, someone calls out to it nearby, so the monkey hops off and gets picked up by one of the circus men. Coincidentally, Mao arrives on the scene, so the ladies make fun of him while he freaks out. Somewhere else, the unlocked door to the crocodile's cage opens, so some crocodiles crept out and made their way into the pools. Suddenly, someone spots the crocodile in the water and screams, so everyone flees the pools while the crocodiles creep out after them. While the people flee, Mao approaches the crocodiles and casts a spell that hypnotizes them. Later that day, after the park branch manager commends Mao for a job well done, the ladies head home on a train and talk about how much fun they had together. However, when Chiho and Suzuno get off the train, Suzuno spots a hooded guy on the other side of the tracks, who then shows off his wings and vanishes. The next day, Lucifer asks Mao how the magic harvesting went, but Mao reveals that he ended up using up the magic. Just then, Ashia crawls out of the restroom and tells them not to worry about him. At that moment, someone announces that they've got a package, but when Lucifer tries to go get it, she slips and falls. So, Mao gets to the door and is informed that the package belongs to Lucifer. Ashia then angrily asks Lucifer what he's been up to while he was away in the restroom. But before he could finish, he rushed back to the restroom. Sometime later, while Lucifer gets busy with his PC, Mao tends to Ashia, who then complains about being useless. Mao then tells him to forget about it and announces that he's making dinner. Just then, the doorbell rings and someone announces that they've got a delivery. Surprised, Ashia asks Lucifer if he bought something again, but he says if he did, he'd have it delivered when they aren't around. After the delivery truck leaves, Mao reads a letter from Mickety, where she wrote that she found a bunch of stuff in Hawaii and suggests that Mao put them up for sale in an upcoming festival market. Meanwhile, Suzuno flashes back to her encounter with the hooded guy who rightly guessed that she's from the church and identified her by her name. After this, she also flashes back to the assassinations she carried out on Olba's orders, thinking she was making the world a better place. However, she realizes it wasn't them who saved the world but the hero. The next day at work, Rika asks Emilia if she went to the park with Mao. In response, Emilia reveals that she met him at the park, although she went with Suzuno and Chiho. Curious, Rika asks if she's interested in Mao, but Emilia says she'd rather be interested in Suzuno. Later that day, Chiho shows up at Mao's apartment and finds cartons stacked tall. When she asks what's going on, Mao explains that the landlady sent the items from Hawaii and asks him to put them up for sale. Just then, Ashia crawls out and begs Chiho to help them out since he's yet to recover. Suddenly, a couple of the packages collapse on Ashia, and Lucifer points out that the room is too cramped even if they plan to get help and announces that Emilia is on her way too, surprising Mao, who then asks how he knows. In response, Lucifer reveals that he snuck a transmitter into her bag some days ago, so Mao opens the door and finds Emilia at Suzuno's door instead. A few moments later, Emilia asks why she should help them since she only dropped by to check on Suzuno. In response, Suzuno points out that she has no reason to be checked on, so they unboxed the packages and found a variety of stuff. However, when they find food items, Lucifer spots a note which says that the food and drinks are for everyone, so Chiho leaves to get cups. Afterward, when Mao tries to uncork a bottle of wine, Emilia says he's being clumsy and tells him to be careful. Suddenly, the cork comes loose and Mao gives Suzuno a wine bath. Not long after this, Chiho arrives with 5 cups, so when Mao announces that Lucifer won't be getting any, Lucifer protests. That evening, after they sold off Mickety's gifts, Mao thanks the ladies for their help. After this, Chiho catches Suzuno spacing out and asks if she's alright. In response, Suzuno says she hasn't had the time to enjoy a festival in years, so Chiho suggests that they have tons of fun with the preparations for the festival. Just when Mao leaves work, Suzuno spots a floating feather and later meets up with the hooded guy. While they talk, the hooded guy tells her to do what she came to do before the Overlord regains his powers. When he adds that it's too late to have doubts since she's got her hands stained with blood plenty of times, Suzuno flashes back to the moment she realized that the church lords were up to no good. She then tells the hooded guy that she didn't execute people because she wanted to, but the guy insists that she get the job done. Back at Mao's house, Lucifer surfs the web while Ashia groans in pain. Annoyed by this, Lucifer tells him to go to the hospital. However, when he says he'll call the ambulance, Ashia asks how much that would cost. On their way home, Emilia and Chiho find Suzuno spaced out, and as they head home, Chiho suggests that Suzuno take up Mao's job offer at McDonald's, but Suzuno suddenly halts and points out that Mao cannot be allowed to live any longer. When Chiho asks where all that rage is coming from, Suzuno explains that Mao used magic by setting up a bamboo tree and manipulating people to pour their wishes onto it. When she adds that he activated his powers by doing that, Chiho defends Mao by saying he was only trying to get visitors. However, Suzuno chips in that there's no guarantee that Mao won't use his powers for more dangerous purposes. since Chiho won't stop trying to defend him. Suzuno says she'll have her memory wiped. Hearing this, Chiho protests and says she doesn't want to lose any of the memories she shares with them. Just then, Suzuno says that Mao is the same overlord who made people suffer on Isla, but Chiho refuses to back down and talks about every good thing Mao has ever done. At this point, Emilia interrupts and says she agrees with Suzuno, but adds that fighting for a peaceful world is not worth sacrificing just anything for. Hearing this, Suzuno asks Emilia if she has any intention to end the overlord, but when Emilia says she doesn't, Suzuno weeps and takes her leave. Afterward, while they head home, Chiho blames herself for talking back at Suzuno despite knowing nothing about Isla. Emilia then tells her not to worry about it since love isn't logical in any way. Suddenly, the Grim Reaper attacks them, but Emilia manages to get Chiho to safety. She then summons her sword and attacks, but she gets thrown back. Just then, the attacker takes off his mask and turns out to be Mitsuki. While Chiho tries to call Mao, Emilia gets blasted by Mitsuki's beam, so her sword turns into a knife. Mitsuki then explains that he can overwhelm users of sacred powers and adds that he has come to relieve her of her mission. Suddenly, he transforms into an angel and says he has come for the sacred sword. With the speed of light, Mitsuki strikes Emilia and throws her through a wall. Just then, Chiho spots Suzuno and approaches her while accusing her of betraying the hero who fought to save their world. So, Suzuno puts Chiho to sleep and asks for her forgiveness. Meanwhile, Mao checks his phone and finds a missed call from Chiho. Just then, he gets a call from Chiho's mother, who then asks if Chiho is with him, since she's not home yet. Moments later, Mao reaches out to Lucifer, who then says that Chiho isn't at the apartment. In addition to this, he reveals that he checked the employee register of Sentucky and realized Mistuki isn't on the list. Mao then asks if he's still got his transmitter on Emilia, so Lucifer checks his radar and finds Emilia's blip moving right through buildings. After asking where the blip is headed, Mao grabs a mop stick and rides out. Meanwhile, in a guarded hospital room, a cop walks out and Olba awakens from his coma. In the same building, Ashia wonders how much his running drip will cost. Just then, a nurse walks in, so Ashia asks if his health insurance will cover the bills. In response, the nurse says it will and offers to hook him up on another drip, but he refuses. Shortly after, Ashia walks out of the room and finds a cop knocked out cold. Suddenly, Olba shows up behind him and knocks him down with a punch. After Olba picks up his card and leaves, the nurse finds Ashia on the floor and gives him a lecture while Olba checks out his address on the card. On a roof somewhere in the city, Mitsuki tortures Emilia with beams from his eyes and tells her to surrender the sacred sword. However, Emilia suggests that he let Chiho go since she has nothing to do with them, but Mistuki refuses and states that she's a sample as a human from another world who really knows the Overlord and still fell for him. When Mitsuki adds that she's making an interesting research subject, Emilia calls him a freak. Annoyed by this, Mitsuki blasts Emilia with the beam while she screams. Meanwhile, Mao approaches the building but suddenly crashes into a magical barrier. Sensing this, Mitsuki suggests they give him a warm welcome and orders Suzuno to take him on. Just then, Emilia tells Suzuno that Isla won't change even if she and the Overlord die in another world. However, Mitsuki is convinced that none of that matters, so Suzuno summons her mallet and jumps down the building. While this goes on, Mao casts a spell to break through the magical barrier. Suddenly, Suzuno lands behind him and crushes his bicycle. Annoyed by this, Mao freaks out and cries about how much another bike will cost him. To his surprise, Suzuno tries to bash his skull in with her mallet, but he flees and jumps to the rooftop. He then begs Suzuno to wait a bit and takes off his clothes. When Suzuno asks what he's doing, Mao explains that she might not understand since she's jobless, so he explains that if his work clothes get damaged outside work, he'll have to pay for them. Annoyed, Suzuno tries to blow him away, but strips him of his shirt instead. So, Mao explains that he overlooked the fact that she bravely stayed next door and treated them with food, but adds that he can't overlook his staff getting hurt. In response, Suzuno asks if he knows who she was all along, and Mao explains that her friendly arrival seemed too good to be true. When he says that her meals were spiked with sacred powers, Mao adds that he had high hopes for her, but she turned out to be just the same as Olba. Pissed, Suzuno attacks Mao, but was surprised to land a successful hit. When she asks why he didn't fight back, Mao explains that he used up his magic breaking through the barrier. Since Suzuno isn't finishing him off, Mao gets up and announces that he's leaving, but Suzuno says it's useless, since he can't face an archangel in his weak state. Mao then realizes it's why Emilia got beaten, and Suzuno chips in that Mitsuki gets stronger the closer he is to the moon. So Mao continues stretching and says he's not shameless enough to abandon his employee and run. Just then, he runs off, leaving Suzuno to wonder if he's really a demon. Meanwhile, back at Mao's house, Lucifer watches his radar and wonders what Mao is getting into. He then gets interrupted by the doorbell, so he gets the door and finds Olba, who then promises to grant his wish if he joins up with him again. On the rooftop where Mitsuki holds Emilia, he decides to extract the sword from Emilia and unbuttons her shirt. Seeing this, Chiho protests and calls Mitsuki a cultured monster, but he reveals that he's not into modest women like Emilia and adds that he's into ladies like Chiho. Hearing this, the ladies call him names that drive him crazy, but when he shuts them up, Emilia says he'll regret it if he lays a hand on Chiho. Mitsuki then reminds her that there's nothing she can do about it, but Emilia says she's talking about Mao. Surprised, Mitsuki asks why a hero is relying on an overlord to save her, but Emilia reveals Chiho is an employee of Mgronad's, and since Mao is her boss, it's his job to protect his employees. While they debate on who's crazier, Mao hurries up the stairs and blames the faulty elevators for his misfortune. Eventually, he arrives at the rooftop and apologizes to Chiho for keeping her waiting. When he comments that Emilia is in one piece too, she screams at him and tells him to keep his eyes off her mini saucers. Mitsuki then expresses his surprise that Mao showed up to save the ladies, while Mao says he didn't expect a midget manager to have his abilities. Mitsuki then explains that he has to retrieve the sacred sword since it's made of one of heaven's most prized assets, but Mao says he's not concerned since he finds it unforgivable that Mitsuki tortures his colleague. Amused, Mitsuki asks Mao what he plans to do with a frail body like his and launches a series of attacks that make him bleed. While Mao realizes he's screwed without his powers, Mitsuki flies close to the moon and asks Mao what he plans to do. Somewhere else, Olba drinks up some holy vitamins and casts a spell while Suzuno wonders if she should cause chaos. However, Lucifer stops her and shows her that Olba is doing that already. Just then, Mitsuki gets stronger and holds Mao with rock particles. Meanwhile, due to the strange happening, people panic, so Ashia draws from the chaos and awakens at the hospital. At the same time, Mitsuki wonders what's going on since magic gathered around Mao. Just then, Mao sets Emilia free and tells Suzuno to take care of them. Seeing this, Mitsuki asks Suzuno if she's gone nuts for supporting the enemy, but Suzuno explains that she can no longer turn a blind eye to their false brand of justice. Somewhere else, Olba says that Mitsuki can now finish off the Overlord, but Mao asks him to hand over Emilia's bag since she'll end him if he doesn't return it. Just then, Olba realizes Lucifer has been playing him. Just then, Lucifer sends him flying and wipes him out with a devastating uppercut. Suddenly, the clouds cover up the moon, surprising Mitsuki. Mao then tells him to either run like a coward or become a punching bag. Despite this, Mitsuki insists he must accomplish his plan, so he tries to blast Mao with his beam, but Mao evades the attack. However, when Mao retaliates, Mitsuki realizes what he's dealing with and tries to seize Chiho as a bargaining chip. To his dismay, Chiho resets him with an uppercut and kicks him into a building. Mao then transforms into his usual form. After this, he picks Emilia up and tells her he can see her puny orbs.
Yeah, boy.
So Emilia buttons up. Meanwhile, Mitsuki threatens to have Mao's head, but Mao shows up and explains that, unlike people who use sacred powers, Mitsuki has nothing on him. Just then, Mao summons his unholy sword and tells Mitsuki to beg for forgiveness. After this, Mao sends the deviant angel back to where he came from. Some moments later, Mao whines about having to clean the mess with his powers, but Emilia says it's his fault for taking too long. Just then, Ashia arrives and apologizes for showing up late. Sometime later, in a dream, Chiho meets with Mao on a roof where he tells her he has to return to Inteila. When she says she'll go with him, Mao refuses and points out that they're from different worlds. Hearing this, Chiho weeps while Mao kisses her and leaves through a gate. After she wakes, she tells Mao about it at work, but omits the part where he kisses her, so Mao says that he doesn't have the kind of power required for that yet, since he did a lot of repairs the previous day, and tosses Mitsuki through a gate. Just then, Kasatsuki shows up and asks Mao why he ran off with a mop and didn't return. While Mao stutters, Chiho says it's a long story. However, Kasaki asks why she's answering for him, and Suzuno walks in and reveals that Mawu saved them. Back at the apartment, Lucifer watches the radar and announces that Suzuno has gone to Mawu's workplace. Hearing this, Ashia tells him to quit spying on people, but then asks Lucifer how much the transmitters cost. Lucifer then tells Ashia to get his soapy hands off him. At McDonald's, Suzuno introduces herself to Kasaki and narrates how they got chased by a cultured moron and were saved by Mawu. Just then, one of the staff barges in and announces that they have found someone in the freezer. Moments later, Mawu and the others stare at Mitsuki chilling on the ground and figure the bamboo must have responded to his magic and opened a gate inside the store. After this, Mitsuki awakens and spills some gibberish about meeting a beauty goddess in another world. While he throws a tantrum, Kasaki wonders if he's right in the head, so Mawu reveals that he's the manager at Sentaki. Just then, Mitsuki goes crazy with his lines, but Kasaki suggests calling the ambulance. Suddenly, Mitsuki tries to hug Kasaki, but she evades him and stomps his head. That same day, Emilia has a weird dream about Mawu returning to his conquest hobby and wakes up. Shortly after, while she changes at work, Rika comments that she seems to be in high spirits and suggests they go get dinner together. However, when Emilia turns her down, Rika asks if she's going to check on Mawu again, but Emilia says she's not sure it's okay to call it that. Just then, Rika points out that it's high time they both stopped with the denial, but Emilia says it's a lot more complicated than that. Later, that evening, Emilia decides never to forgive Mawu for destroying her village and snuffing out her father. However, she shows up at his door, and when she enters, she finds Suzuno feeding him. Seeing this, Emilia asks what she's doing, and when Chiho sees them too, she freaks out. Suzuno then explains that she tried some French cuisine. Annoyed, Chiho points out that she's making dinner already and asks Mawu while Emilia stares in surprise. After throwing a tantrum, Chiho asks Mawu whose cooking he'd choose between hers and Suzuno's. Mao then says it'd save them a lot of money if they could take turns every day. While Emilia gets disappointed at how far the Overlord has fallen, Ashia walks in, surprising Mawu, who then asks where he has been. Just then, Ashia says he'd like to take a vacation. Afterwards, on a call, Emirata says she doesn't think Ashia is back to Inteila. But when Emilia insists that he said he's going on a vacation, Emirata says he probably got tired of living in the cramped apartment. Just then, Emilia flashes back to the moment Ashia said he can't go into details in the presence of the ladies, so Mawu asks them to leave. Sometime later, when Emilia tells Chiho that she couldn't find out anything from Emirata, it suddenly begins to rain, and when they find a dry spot, Chiho says that Mawu might be returning to Inteila soon, just like in her dream. Emilia then asks what she means and says that she had an ominous dream too. Later, while Emilia spies on Mawu's house, she spots a truck delivering a lot of stuff to the house. She then wonders if they were importing something like holy vitamins from hell. Afterwards, Emilia calls Emirata to find out if anything weird is happening on Inteila, but she says she gained a few pounds, annoying Emilia. Meanwhile, Kasaki gets a bouquet from Mitsuki, and while she wonders what to do with it, Mawu walks in and requests an adjustment in his work schedule. Kasaki then agrees to grant his request, but Chiho eavesdrops. Shortly after, when Mawu prepares to leave, Chiho asks if he's really returning to Inteila, but Mawu says he doesn't have the power to return yet. Hearing this, Chiho then asks what was up, but Mawu says he can't say. Sometime later, Emilia and Chiho get into their spy outfits and tail Mawu to a construction site. While they wonder if he's trying to build a castle overlord, they spot Mawu working, and he spots them too. A few moments later, Mawu explains to them that they needed some money to pay for 2 transmitters that Lucifer bought and snuck into Emilia's bag and Suzuno's footwear. Suddenly, Emilia checks her bag, and when she finds the transmitter, she almost fries it with her sacred powers, but Mawu reminds her she's in public, so she crushes it with her boots. Mawu then says they'll be charged for it in 2 weeks, and his payday is still weeks away. After this, Mawu adds that Ashia came up with the idea of taking a temporary job that pays daily wages. Emilia then asks why they decided to keep it from Chiho, and Mawu explains that she'd feel responsible for it since the transmitters helped in saving her life. After this, Mawu apologizes, but Chiho says it's fine as long as he's not returning to Inteila. Emilia then asks what the truck was delivering at the house, but Mawu says he has no idea what she means. Some moments later, while Mawu questions him, Lucifer trembles and says he found the packages in the house. Mawu then takes him out of the way and unveils the boxes. Inside them, they found fire extinguishers and water purifiers, so Mau asks Lucifer what they're for, and he explains that he fell for a purchasing scam. While Mau wonders what that is, Emilia explains that it's a trick where some people show up pretending to be interested in buying things you don't need, but eventually trick you into buying stuff from them instead. Annoyed, Mau asks how much he spent, and Lucifer reveals it's 128 zizens yen. Afterward, Emilia checks through the PC and finds the address of the company. She then suggests that Mau call the number, but when he does, the company says that the goods can't be returned. Infuriated, Mau decides they'll have to negotiate with them directly. The next day, Mau and Emilia head to the company and are surprised to find Ashia working there. After they explained the situation to him, Ashia revealed he was the one on the phone and explained that he had to follow a manual when dealing with customers. Just then, Ashia realizes he's been working as a pawn of the devil and says he can't stay in the company any longer. The president then shows up and asks if something was wrong. In response, Mau asks if he's the boss, and the president points out that the terms of the transactions were mentioned in a clause. Confused, Mau says it's just a scam, but the president disagrees and says it was a transaction done on mutual agreement. On their way home, Ashia apologizes for failing as Lucifer's guardian. Just then, Emilia gets an idea and asks Mau how old Lucifer is on Earth. When Mau says he's not yet an adult, Emilia says there's something they could do. The next day, they visit a lawyer who explains that a minor would need his guardian's approval to sign a contract, and since Lucifer was registered as one, the contract is invalid, so the company returns to get its goods. If you made it to the end of this video, comment demons are not so bad. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel for similar content. Thanks for watching.